All right, what's up, guys? All right, for this episode, it's going to be a special one. So, you saw me talk to a lot of athletes, a lot of kids that are going through the recruitment process, have been through the recruitment process. Now, we're going to get on the other side of that with the coaches that are responsible for those athletes in that process and how that looks on this side. I know it's sometimes you hear kids say how hard it is, or this person didn't help, or that person didn't help, or this person did help, or it's because of this person that we did this, or whatever the case may be. So that's going to be what you kind of hear today is what goes on that side, because it's not as easy as a lot of people make it seem. You'll see us post the success stories, but you don't really see the behind the scenes, all the no's, all the ignored calls, and the left on red messages and stuff like that. So have a pleasure today. I don't know if it's to my, I think it's gonna be to my right when y'all look at this on Spotify. I think it's to my right. So Coach Snell, and then to my left is Coach Tim Peoples, and Coach Snell's first name is Antonio. If you want to look him up on Facebook, it's Antonio. Now I'll put y'all's Instagram handles and stuff like that in the description below once we get this uploaded. All right.
Okay,
So, fellas, this is the first coaching corner episode. All right.
let's go.
Hopefully, we get to have a few of these as the season goes on. As recruitment gets revved up this fall, we'll have another one. But before we get started, we'll start with you, Antonio. Kind of tell us a little bit about, how you came up, how you got into coaching, and
Oh man. Uh, First off, like Coach Fagan said, I'm Antonio Snell, Coach Snell, affectionately known. Man, I grew up, born and raised in Dothan, Alabama. Played ball throughout school. Graduated from Northview. Um, Now known as Dothan High because of the merge and all that good
yeah,
stuff, which I'm totally against, but it is what it is. I'm a cougar at heart. So, yeah, man, I end up, growing up, playing the game. And when I played the game, I always had a knack for um, pretty much being the coach on the floor, the leader, even though I played most of the two and the three position. I never really played the one for real, but I always knew where everybody needed to be at what specific time. When I played club ball, uh, coming back home, I ended up coaching Little League.
mm,
And when I started coaching Little League, my mentor, Coach Brinkley, he took me with them to Fort Rucker, and I was just going for the ride because I was back home. I was just going for the ride, and he ended up putting me on the sideline, and he just kind of walked off. And and when he walked off, I was like, "Yo, where you going?" And and he was like, "Yo, you coaching?" And so I was like,
yeah,
"Oh shoot!" So that was he threw me to the wolves in the
yeah,
fire like the first time, and I was like, and pretty much I was like, "Okay, we ended up losing because I had no idea
yeah,
what we were doing." I didn't even practice with the kids or nothing. But he was like, "You're a coach, and so
yeah.
you need to learn how to start coaching now." And I was like, "Oh well, okay." Ever since then, man, I came back home, started coaching the 17U team. I was like 17, 18 myself. I started coaching the kids, my age. And, man, it kind of just like grew from there, man. Ended up moving to, Panama City, started coaching high school down here. JV boys, varsity girls, AU girls for the last 7, 8 years. But then I got into the recruiting side, man, and it kind of happened with my little sister-in-law. It was me just helping her get in school
Yeah.
because she wanted to play college basketball. And then I had a kid from Egypt kind of like hit me up. You know how the kids on Instagram and stuff hit you up and
Oh
try to
yeah.
get in school.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was this girl from Egypt, man, and I sent her to a school in Louisiana. I forgot what school it was specifically, but it was like 5 or 6 years ago, and it kind of like just went from there, and like me just placing kids, kind of like grew from those two kids, me helping them, and now man, it's almost an everyday thing to where,
Hmm.
I'm helping kids get in school, I'm helping parents understand the recruiting process, advice, just different counseling and stuff like that. Just different realms of basketball that parents and players don't see outside of
Yeah,
just the off the court stuff, man. But yeah, that's where we at now, man. Just coaching AAU currently, and still helping kids get in school currently, man. Just waiting to see what's next on the high school side. But until then, man, we're gonna rock out doing what we do.
I know that's right. I like it. And what about you, Coach Peoples? How'd you get started? What got you into um, recruiting and coaching?
Oh man, so I'm right along the line with Antonio. Grew up with the Gerard Antonio. Then I ventured off with the Dothan High. Graduated from Dothan High. Then I took the college route to get the education. A fun fact, what people don't know is Antonio played on my AE team with me.
Okay.
That's right.
So yeah, he played on my AE team with me, and we've also basically been knowing each other since sixth grade, man. So
Yeah, we
it's
go
it's
way
we've been
back.
knowing each other a long time,
Yeah.
and turns out we had the same similar ideas, obviously. But came to A&M, get a couple degrees, graduated from Wallace. And then when I came back home to help my mom out, um, Ashford had offered me a job at special education paraprofessional,
Okay.
which is actually a great profession to do, teaches you patience. But did that, and I actually reached out to Coach Lewis just on a whim and was like, "Hey man, you need an assistant coach." Text me back next day. He was like, "Yeah man, come coach." So
Yeah.
I was like, "All right." So I got that opportunity with him. He put me in a room with a lot of people, uh, and then from there I was back home with Antonio. So I really learned a lot of things from Antonio um, that people don't know.
Yeah.
Which that translates to the recruitment. I actually learned how to do the recruitment from Antonio, from his posts, asking questions, obviously calling them. So with the recruitment, that's how I got into it because of Antonio.
Yeah.
Coaching, I think, was honestly outside of just playing basketball for a hobby, actually loving it. I think that was kind of a God given talent with coaching.
Absolutely.
Um, in our family, we excel at teaching and instructing, whether it may be a teacher or a coach or any variation of teaching, we
All
excel.
right.
So I think that's more God given.
Gotcha. Okay. You know, you said something funny, Antonio, when you were saying how you got thrown to the wolves. I remember when I got out of high school, I had got injured in high school. You know, I stopped playing ball. I ran track my last year, made the state, did all that. My auntie, Donna, she kept on telling me for years, "You're a coach. You gotta be a coach. You gotta be a coach. You gotta be a coach." And I'm like, I don't want to coach. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to coach. She said, "But you're a coach."
Yeah.
We have a track meet. I came home from Troy to attend the track meet. She tells me, "Hey, go over there and help such and such with long jump." So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go stand over there and see what they got going on. They hand me a clipboard, hand me some measurement tape, like you working long jump pit. So I'm like, what? Well, you did it in high school, so you can work. You know what to do. I said, yeah, I know what to do, but don't mean I want to stand over here and do it.
Exactly.
But before you
Exactly.
know it, I'm coaching, long jump at my old high school. Then I'm coaching triple jump. Then I'm coaching hurdles. Then I go to my
Mhm.
rival school. I'm coaching over there, and then I'm helping with the basketball team. And same with you. I had a kid from my rival school that actually asked me to help him get recruited. Help him get recruited, and from that, I was like, you know what, that was a good feeling. For
Yeah.
nothing else, that was just a good feeling. I still didn't like to be on the sideline. I still really don't like to be on the sideline, but it's a good
Mhm.
feeling to see, especially kids who don't think they're gonna go. They
That's right.
they do everything they can, and it's just like I don't know what else to do. So to get those kids play somewhere is always a good feeling. So it's scary to get out there, especially when you don't expect it. But when you get those reports, it's definitely a good feeling. Um, so we go into the recruitment aspect of it. What do you guys think if we're talking to a group of athletes? What age do you think they really need to start focusing on the recruitment side of everything? When it stops being,
Uh,
you want to have fun still, but when do you kind of need to kind of have that mindset? Like, can he play in college? Do we need to start kind of preparing this athlete, this young lady, this young man for that
Mhm.
route? Like, what age do you think that is?
what's ninth grade? 14? 14 years old,
Teen, yeah,
14, 15. Yeah, right there, ninth grade. I wouldn't start. I mean, obviously, you got like the USA trial teams that they go all the way. I don't know what they go down to 16U or 15U, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
That's different. That's a what's the word I'm looking for? That's a
Anomaly. Those are special.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different. That's different. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know what I'm saying? But just a kid in general, if a parent is like seeing their kid blossom in middle school and be like, oh, well, I think my kid can play, on a high level, or my kid can play school ball or something like that. I think, ninth grade is a good starting point because now you can start, and I'm sure we'll touch on this. You can start keeping up with, grades, test scores, all that. Have them take the practice test. Start finding a good club team for them to compete on. That's an elite team.
Right.
That everybody is not. Everybody's good, so a good measuring stick for them. Ninth grade, I think, is a good starting point.
Okay. You agree with that, Tim, or you got a different sentiment?
I do, and it's only because of obviously through the experience of seeing it.
Yeah.
It was a story. You remember I was telling you about the kid that goes to James Clemens. He's actually probably about to be a sophomore now. The Jaden kid, the light skinned kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he went to a summer camp. He went to A&M summer camp, and their freshman team, James Clemens, blew out I think Buckhorn's JV team.
Yeah.
And I remember telling you, I was like, hey man, that kid had like 30.
Yeah.
But also, while we were at A&M, the basketball players was working the clock, and the assistant coaches were in there.
Yeah.
Now I remember telling you that this kid left without any offers. With it being A&M, we know how that goes.
Yeah.
But I say ninth grade because outside the test scores, like Coach Snell said, you can actually develop a long-term plan.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can go ahead, create the social media, you can develop a long-term plan. You can already have a list of schools that you want to go to, aka a kid's dream school
Right.
that you want to go to, and then you can have a list of obviously a backup plan,
Right.
plan A, B, C. So ninth grade really is the best way to start.
Right.
Anything after 10th grade, you're gonna be up against the numbers
Right.
because it's a numbers game at that point. But ninth grade, regardless if you're a ninth grader playing JV or freshman, you can still have a plan.
Right. I'm glad you said that last part. Because you hear that a lot, especially the last couple of years that I was in Huntsville. That's really all you hear is what level are they playing? Are they on? Oh, I'm on varsity. Oh, well, he's on freshman or he's on JV. And then you have a guy who's played varsity ball 4 years that doesn't get recruited. You have a guy who comes behind that, plays freshman, plays JV, plays varsity his last year or last 2 years, and he's been being looked at his whole high school career. Now he's going to a D1 or a high D2 or something like that, and they don't understand the philosophy behind it. They don't understand how development plays a part in everything. Like, yeah, it's great
Right.
to have some decent size. It's great to be naturally athletic. But if you're not developing, if you don't have floor minutes, you're pointless to a lot of
that's
these
right.
colleges. To say I played varsity ball for 3 years, but I have 17 combined minutes over those 3 years, what kind of offers am I going to get? You know,
Right.
versus I was
Hmm.
a starter for freshman, I was a team captain, I was the leading scorer, I was the leading assist guy. Got on JV, same thing happened. Got to varsity, now I've grown, and now I am a varsity size player because a lot of these kids, they're 5'5", 5'6" as a freshman,
Yeah,
and you're throwing them out there to play varsity ball, and then instead of waiting until they get to that level, unless we have the Caleb Hopes of the world, so we have
yeah.
those type of athletes that's like, okay, why is he playing against the freshman? Like, come on, Jeremiah Wilson, like those type of players, yes, of course, but if you're an average player where you are, it's not that great to say, oh, I play varsity, you know,
Hmm.
because that's not going to be impressive to a coach coming to sit in those stands. If I'm coming to watch, and I told, a lot of kids this, if I'm coming to watch Caleb, I use him as an example because that's all you hear about in Huntsville. Caleb, Caleb, Caleb. So I'm coming to watch Caleb. If you have a great game against Caleb Hope, you're now on my radar.
That's right.
Regardless of
Yep.
if I knew you before I got there or not, I'm going to like something that you did. And if it's just defense, because at the end of the day, I need players to play with my star player. If Caleb is who I really
Mm-hmm.
want, he can't do it by himself. I need people to come play defense. I need people to rebound. I need people to, play their role on the floor. So, but if you can't have a good game against Caleb Holt, why is Caleb Holt the person you're jealous of? Why is Caleb Holt? You're mad at Caleb. You're mad at everybody because you're not on varsity or you don't get as many minutes,
Yeah.
and you get on the floor and you're not prepared.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you said that part because it's okay to be a freshman playing freshman. It's
Yeah.
okay to be a sophomore and sometimes even a junior playing JV. That's what it's there for. You know,
Yeah.
elite schools, their varsity team is usually seniors because
Yeah.
you have that many athletic players. That varsity team is for my seniors, and I'm replacing
Yeah.
that team every single year because that's how I'm developing my program. So I'm glad you said that, and I hope kids understand just get better, develop, get those
Yeah.
minutes on the
That's
floor
right.
and build your resume. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like y'all said, like the online presence starts in ninth grade, but if you're not getting any minutes, when are you going to post a video? I don't want to see one more training video of you dunking in a one versus nobody training session. And then I look at your film and there's not one dunk in the whole package.
How many dunks you got in 21?
Exactly. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You're not dunking in 21. You're not even dunking in 1v1. You know what I'm saying? Like you're literally doing it in training. So
Yeah.
I'm glad y'all hit on those topics
Yeah.
because they need to know that, it's okay to go through the development process.
Yeah,
Yes, it
and
is.
even I ask parents this all the time, especially when coming out of middle school, and they feel like they kid got to play varsity ninth grade, 10th grade. Can you guard a varsity player?
So,
And I hit them with the same thing on the college level, like a kid coming out of high school, getting ready to go, trying to find, a school to play at for college. Well, my kid D1, can they guard D1?
right,
Can your guard a Division 1 guard?
right,
Can you guard a Division 1 post? Can you guard a Division 2 post? When you guard a Division 3 guard,
right.
you are who you can guard. That's the level you can play on.
Absolutely.
Because you can drop 30, but can you stop somebody from dropping 30?
Exactly.
That's how I look at it. Even when I coach high school, I'm looking at the girls. I'm like, yo, coach, how many points I had? How many points did you give up?
Right.
We won, yeah, by 2. How many did you give up?
Because you might have scored, but you were on somebody's highlight film a little bit too much.
Too
You know
much,
what I'm saying?
too much,
Exactly.
You're the
and not
reason
for the
why
good.
you're the reason
Yeah,
they got an offer. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
talking about your points. You're the reason
yeah,
they got offered. And Tim, that's something you brought to the table this year with this DSA team that we had. You were really focused on that. Don't give up this many points. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like, forget, I'm not rewarding you for how many points we scored. That's cool if y'all can put 110 points on the board. But
Right.
if the ending score is 125 to 122, we were just out there just throwing the ball at you. How many points
yeah,
are you going to
man,
give up? And I
yeah.
remember when Tim said that to them, I remember their face was trying like, he wants us to do what? We got to do what? We got to stop how many times? We got to do this? And I'm like, the fact that this concept is so foreign to y'all
Yeah.
Exactly.
is probably the reason why it's going to be so hard to get you recruited.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because coming out of a prep program, you're not going to be anybody's star player, more than likely. You know what I'm saying?
correct.
You're fighting for those roster spots to just hope that you're paying for your education at this point. And if you
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
get in there and say, you know what, I played 3 minutes a game my first season, but you know what? I went out there and I proved to them why I should get more minutes the next year. And
Right.
instead of them going out recruiting another player like me, they moved me up to more minutes. That's what you're really hoping for coming out of a prep program, coming out of a junior college. So
Hmm.
that concept of just putting that grind in, and having more on paper than just how many points you have.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
and to continue on recruitment, one thing we got to really tap on is the responsibility of each party that's involved. We I know for myself, and y'all can tell me if y'all agree. Kids come to us and they'll hit me up on Instagram, they hit me up on Twitter, or they'll call me, whatever, and they'll say, "Well, can you help me get to college?" And of course, the conversation goes the same way each time. We ask them all the measurables, we ask them about the film,
Mhm.
we go through the whole dance with them, and then we hear nothing else from them. We don't see them post anything on Twitter. They're not responding to anything. Coaches are hitting them up. They only respond to the coaches they want to play for. And then 2 months roll by. Now they're panicking, and now they're hitting you up every day. Now they begging you. Now they question marking the text they just sent you 35 seconds ago, and it's like, oh well, Coach D didn't help me. He said he was going to help me. He didn't help me. So it goes from can you help me? I need your help to you didn't help me because I didn't do my part.
Mhm.
So that responsibility, I think that's another topic we need to focus on is like, what is responsibility for each party? When you think about what should parents be doing starting in freshman year to help their kids be recruited? What should the kid be doing? And then what should not only what should they expect from the high school coach, but then what should they also be looking for as far as making that high school coach's job easier to get them to where they want to go?
Man, let me
Go
go.
ahead.
Let me go first on this, coach.
Go ahead.
Because this is a perfect example of what we've seen from the parents with my AU girls.
Yeah,
Um, so when it comes to the parents, let's have some realistic expectations, and that can always trickle down to everybody. But let's have some realistic expectations. Um, you want to be realistic on what your child can do, where your child is at.
right,
Also, as a parent, however your finances look, on your end, you want to invest in your kid, and I mean invest when as it relates to the subject of basketball.
right,
Buy him shoes, have him gear, have him workouts. Saying if you trust a trainer, you know, are you going to accommodate that and pay?
right.
Um, are you going to have them in the gym on their own time, making sure they put in work?
That,
You know,
yeah,
that's what you can do as a parent. When it comes to high school coaches, um, what is your high school coach? It's imperative to know what is your high school coach. Is he or she a developer? Are they just out recruiting talent, or do they have a system that you like, and do they have a track record or have connections of getting you to the next level,
right,
rather than be D1, D2, D3, NAIA or JUCO?
Mm-hmm.
You should want to play for a high school coach that you like. Some people don't get that opportunity. We didn't get that opportunity where we could just transfer, not have to sit out and play. But you want to make sure that system fits what you do well.
right,
Um, you want to get along with the coach. You don't want to have that sense of entitlement. Um, but you also want to buy in as well.
right,
They can be coachable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not coachable, that means you're probably a transfer. Then you won't be coachable at the next program you go to. Transfer again, so you have that process of transfer. You want to avoid that. As the actual basketball player yourself, you want to be coachable, but you got to work on your game. Um, don't work on your game to fit what the high school coach needs. You should work on everything. If you're going to college, you should want to work on everything: passing, dribbling, shooting, communicating. You want to be good at everything if you can. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, if you're not good at anything, you might want to be good on defense and communicating at least.
yeah,
Or you better be really smart in the classroom.
That's right.
So you got to find something you're good at, which you always have to work on. Yeah.
you went out on coach.
Go ahead.
There you went.
Okay. Never really want to disrespect the coach as well, because coaches know coaches. That's number one. Coaches know coaches. So even if you think your coach doesn't have any connections, might want to be careful on that too.
That's right.
And you should enjoy actually playing high school basketball.
Yeah,
Because like I told the kids we had this past year, you never really know who's watching. You never know who's in the crowd.
yeah,
So you want to be careful of your actions. You never want to drop your head, hang your head. You want to keep a positive body language.
Mm-hmm.
because when people are at these high school games, parents, some scouts, they see all of that. They'll look on the sideline. They're not really worried about the coach. They're there for you, obviously. So that would be my advice for parents, kids, and then for the high school coaches.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I hit all three real quick. Man, that was those some great points. Oh man, I deal with this. Oh my god. Oh my god. I deal with this. So man. So uh, parents first. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Okay. So for parents, first and foremost, you got to do your research.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to research what does it take. What is the recruiting process?
Mm-hmm.
What it consists of, what it involves, your part that you play in it. Who do I need to talk to? How just research everything that you think you need to know about your kid getting involved. Secondly, parents, you have to invest in your kid. You got to invest in your kid. If you know your kid can play, something on playing and investing in your kid, it's going to take some type of sacrifice.
Right.
You can't go to uh, what is it, Disney World, if your kid need to fly out to California to participate in a 17U elite camp or something. Just for an example, you got to be able. If you want your kid to be in the best position, you got to be able to make sacrifices.
Right.
And those sacrifices will pay off. They will pay off in the end, but you got to be willing to upfront make those sacrifices.
Right.
Uh, I'll hit the player first before I get to the coach because I got a lot to say about the coaches. Player, like Coach Tim said, you gotta want it first off.
Yeah.
If your parent is going to invest in you, sacrifice for you, do these things for you, you got to be able to sacrifice something on your own. Jalen Brunson said his parents told him, you can't have school, social life, and basketball. You got to pick two out of the three. You got to be willing to give up something.
Yeah.
The hanging out with the friends, you ain't gonna miss nothing. The partying, the trail ride, the boots on the ground.
Right.
You ain't gonna miss none of that.
Right.
You ain't gonna miss none of that nowadays. So it's important for you to hit the gym, hit the weight room, hit the track, and make it eat right, sleep right, and repeat, and definitely make sure your grades on point.
Right.
But it's simple for a kid because at the end of the day, a kid only can do so much. The coach and the parent, those are the two biggest pieces. A kid's sole responsibility is to make sure their body, mind, education are all intact. So when everything starts to flow between coaches and parents, then the kid is in a position to, perform and, get to the next level that way. All the logistics and stuff like that, that's not on the kid,
Right.
that's on the adult. So that responsibility is geared more toward, coach and parent. The player responsibility is geared more towards the classroom, on the court, off the court trainer, stuff like that. Coaches, I tell parents all the time, high school coaches, it's not the high school coach job to get your kid recruited.
Right.
They don't have to.
They're history
They
teachers.
there to just work at the school
Yeah.
and coach. Most of the coaches are like math teachers, science
Yes.
teachers, history teachers,
They're getting.
something like that.
Yeah.
They getting a check for
Yeah.
it. So you can't blame them if they don't know the recruiting process.
Or they
You
don't have
know.
time. You know.
Oh yeah, the fact. So I mean, if a coach I do make this caveat though, if a coach do have your kid's best player at heart, they will do what's necessary to help your kid get recruited.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. When I coach high school basketball, like, we can get you into school. That's easy.
Yeah.
But because my background is the recruiting side, it's easy for me to do that.
Yeah.
But the crosstown rival, they don't have that luxury though. You know what I'm saying? So most of them do call, or it's nothing to pick up a phone. If we crosstown rivals, best believe we're gonna become a village to help this kid get in school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's bigger than just the wins and loss column. when it
Right.
comes to placing, little Johnny at a university or little Susie at a university.
Right.
So the coach's standpoint, if they know how to, get a kid recruited, then that's different. But if they don't, parents, it's not their sole responsibility to get your kid in school. But if they do have your kid's best interests at heart, then they will do what's necessary to get your kid in school.
Right. Absolutely. To touch on what you said about the player side of it, I had Todd Dowdy. I interviewed with him. We did a couple of interviews over the years, but Ty is who I say is probably one of my most consistent training athletes that I've had. Him and his group of friends, actually. Him, Miles Taylor, Dylan Horton. They come from James Clemens. And that's actually how I came across, the kid that you're talking about, Tim, the Jaden kid, knowing those type of kids was through, working with Ty and all of them first. But Ty is a kid that when you see him, he's either on the field, he's in the weight room, they're doing Vertimax, or he's doing something to do with getting himself better, whether it be research, even researching the colleges that he's being recruited by. Like, what are they looking at putting me in their system? Does that system make me better, or am I just another number in that system? Like, just really knowing things like that. And then the people he had around him, like you said, we can't go sit at McDonald's after school every day. We can't go, just chill every day. We can't get on the game at 12 o'clock at night and talk junk to each other. You know what I'm saying? We all are on one single mission individually, but you got to have people with you that are going the same direction.
Yeah, like-minded individuals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I told him, I said, because at the end of the day, none of your friends, more than likely, are going to sign that scholarship at the same as that school that you're signing the scholarship to. It's probably not going to happen. So why would you? That's the same instance they say, what you eat don't make me use the bathroom. So why would I waste my time doing something that I know is going to hinder me just because it doesn't hinder you? Like, that's crazy. And that's what these kids do. They get in these cliques and they don't want to be the one that's isolated. They don't want to be the uncool one. They don't want to be the one that misses out on something. Or they use the narrative. I heard parents say this all the time. Well, they got to have fun. I want them to enjoy the high school career. And it's like, you can have, if playing the sport you're playing isn't fun, then stop playing it. If you can't sacrifice small things, I'm not saying skip prom. I'm saying, why are you sitting at McDonald's from 4:15 to 7:30, and then you go home and you're wondering why you're not getting any better? And then you're blaming your high school coach, like he doesn't open the gym. He won't let us in the gym. Because once he goes home, he has a family to tend to, and he has a whole classroom of kids that he has to grade papers for, help them pass the class before he even gets to your sorry behind. So now you waiting on me to open the gym. You can go somewhere. There's plenty of ways for you to get work in. But of course,
Yep.
that would be ideal, to be able to say, oh, well, my high school gym is always open, or he gave us a key to the gym. Yeah, that's ideal, but let's not live in a perfect world. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's put in the work ourselves and get ourselves prepared for the opportunity to go somewhere. And that's what I think. If you can say with this, Tim, I think what we ran into is we put kids in a position to be recruited, but they were not ready to be recruited.
Thanks.
And you're not prepared to take that opportunity. And now it's everybody's fault but yours. And like you said, Snell, at a younger age, it's not their responsibility. There's nothing these kids can do besides, what I'm saying? If my mom say I can't go to the gym, I'm, you know, but when I get 17, 18 years old, or I'm out here, if I'm driving, but when I get in my car to drive, I'm going to my homeboy house. I pass by 3 gyms, pass by a weight room, you know, I pass by Subway and go to McDonald's. Those kind of decisions right there is letting you know that you're not ready to go play college ball.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yep.
So like, you made some good points. Like, the triangle that we have with the parents, the coaches, and the athlete, I think a lot of times is outweighted. They put too much weight on that coach.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I think it's just a lot of unreal expectation. I see a lot of coaches. I watch. I like Coach. What's his last name? Uh, Dang, what's his last name? I know Frankie Sullivan over at James Clement up there in Huntsville.
Hmm.
Um, the coach at Hoover does a really great job. The coach at Huntsville does a really great job. Uh,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
the coach that they have down there at Central Phoenix City now, he was used to be at Hoover before. Like these coaches, they do a great job of getting kids placed, but it's not because they have to go outside their ability to do so. They've got a reputation, and coaches are already coming to them.
Yep.
So
There it is.
they're sending kids all these places because their program speaks for itself. If you don't have coaches coming to your program, more than likely that coach is going to be able to help you get recruited.
Right.
Because at what point of their day do you think they're going to be able to do that? I get
Mm-hmm.
done teaching my English class, and I had three different classes. These kids done work my nerve all day. I had to
Hmm.
talk to five different parents. The parents don't care about the grades. They cussing me out. Now I got to come deal with the athletes' parents. Got to deal with fundraisers. Got to do all this extra stuff. And I'm just an English teacher. Like I like basketball. I love basketball, but I'm not coaching at the college level. I'm coaching high school ball. I'm coaching freshmen. You know what I'm saying? Like, how much time do you really think I have to send out 100 emails? Because you're sending
Right.
20 so emails per kid, you know,
Yes.
and then you got to think about the time it takes to even look at what the college needs, what that coach is asking for, and what kid fits that bill. You can't
Mm-hmm.
send just every single kid to every single coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kids have to understand that as well. Like I know you want to go to North Carolina, but that's not realistic. So
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
if I ever come across North Carolina's coach, the last thing I'm going to do is put a kid in front of them that I know is not what they need. Because not only does that hurt that kid, that hurts my credibility as well. But kids just want to know, oh, well, he talked to this coach. Oh, well, I talked to this coach. I emailed with the Troy coach. I emailed with this coach. Okay, you got a camp invite. Great job.
Yeah.
All right, go pay your money, go to the camp, and come on back home. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
that's what it is. Um, So the last piece of that, and I touched on, I think I said respect,
Yeah.
and the reason I put those three, the recruitment, is what this is all about, right? That's what the kids want. So they say they want, you know, responsibility, I think is the piece that most of them are lacking, you know,
Yeah.
at one point or another, whether it be, and a lot of times, and I don't want to put all the blame on the parent because you got to think, a lot of times the parents really don't know. They don't know
Yeah.
what to do, and so they're relying on people like us. They're relying on the high school coach. They're relying on whoever to tell them, okay, this is what you need to do. This is where your child needs to be. You know, all the parent knows is I'm going to log in here and make sure their grades is good. Make sure you
Yep.
That's right.
no class. Make sure that room is clean. I don't know anything about this sport. I don't know if he looks like a D1 player, if he don't look like a D1 player. I don't know. He looks tall, and most moms, what I'm saying? Yeah, he looks taller than me because the mom ain't but 4'11". So I'm like, yeah, he looks taller than me, look like he can play. But then that respect aspect, respect for the process, respect for your coaches, respect for your parents, respect for your
Yep.
teammates, respect for
Really self.
yeah, respect for yourself, respect yourself enough to put in those hours,
Yeah.
to sacrifice this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And respect because your friends will understand. You know what I'm saying? If you have a friend who doesn't play sports, if that's your real friend and you say, hey, I can't hang out tonight, I got to get in the gym, that friend's going to
Yeah.
be like, cool. Oh my God. Or that friend's going to be like, shoot, I'll come rebound for you. I'll come, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't seen you
Yep.
in a while. I'll come in there and do whatever. But respect yourself enough, respect the process enough to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you go through your whole career and you've never sacrificed one thing, you're not going to make it far.
Sir.
So I'll start with I think I'll start with Tim this time. Um, that respect aspect. What do you think that looks like as far as from the kid to each of those elements, the parents, the coaches themselves? Like how important do you think that respect aspect is?
uh, really as it relates to life going forward, you need that respect aspect anyway, because while some may go off to the NBA or G League or overseas, uh, you got to be able to perform. Everybody's goal. Everybody's not going to be an NBA player.
Right.
Some people might have to, go to corporate America like myself. You have to have the respect aspect. You have to have the respect for whatever you want to accomplish or do.
Right.
If you don't have the respect, most likely not going to have discipline, and they actually kind of go hand in hand. So, outside of basketball, having the respect for anything is bigger, and that's just me. I think you have to have the respect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, and respect is more so a life skill.
Right.
You know, understanding how to respect others and respect yourself is a life skill that's gonna carry over well after that ball start bouncing.
Absolutely.
Because that ball ain't gonna always bounce, and you got to be able to fall back on something. Rather if you do get into coaching or recruiting, or if you got to go work at the bank, or if you got to work in the school system, whatever the case may be. Like Coach Tim said, you got to be able to have that respect factor, simply because that's your get out of jail free card. You know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna pave the way for you. Because you might run into a coach that coached against you when you was playing. When they are in their 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
you might run into them, in a whole nother state, and if you gave them, some lip or something like that when you played, they gonna remember that.
Yeah.
They gonna remember that when you get into the workforce. If you made giving people lip, whether it's your parents or coaches, that'll become a life skill. So if you're trying to land a job, you know what I'm saying, you gonna give your boss
Yeah.
lip.
That's,
Then you look up, you ain't gonna have no job.
yeah.
The same way you lost your spot on the team, you're gonna lose your spot on the job.
Right.
It all goes hand in hand. So the same way you battle to keep your position on the court, or the field. I know this is basketball, but it works. So this is a overall uh, life skill. That any athlete that can take. You lose that same position, in the workforce. So, and the difference is you got to wake up and go to class the next day. Well, in the real world, you wake up, you're gonna have to go find a job.
Right. Right.
You have to go find something else to do.
Right.
But in the meantime, you have to work on self, because just because you got fired from that job or whatever, don't mean that disrespect that you still carry is gone.
Right.
So you got to work on yourself, and that respect starts with self. And if you don't respect yourself, you ain't gonna respect nobody.
Absolutely.
So if you don't respect yourself, the next person don't mean nothing to you.
Right.
So
Facts.
man, yeah, that's pretty much that respect piece right there. Like, just understanding, like, to carry yourself in a way to where somebody can see you 20, 30 years from now and say, hey, that's a good dude, or that's a good young lady right there.
Right.
So
Hey,
yeah,
absolutely.
man.
And I think there's a lot of kids lack that, and that's not in. You can teach your kids respect.
Yeah.
You can teach them respect, but at the same time, when you get to that high school age, like you said, having respect for yourself is going to translates into the world. You're not.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to say yes, sir. I know how to say, no, sir. Those are easy things. I know how to, as a kid, a teenager, I know how not to say whatever back to adults, and those things. But then
Mm-hmm.
when you get beside someone, your peers, and you're competing, and you have to compare yourself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not respecting yourself, now everything this person besides you does, you're not gonna like. There's gonna be
That's
an
right.
issue with everything. Everything is a problem. They got it because of this. They do this because of that. Everything is a problem. And it really just boils down to yourself. And that's something that you can't teach. You as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
as a coach, you can't teach that self-respect. That
That's right.
comes with knowing, like I can say, you know what, Tim, I think that you'll be a great coach at A&M. But if Tim in his heart and his mind does not think that he can be a coach at A&M, all he's going to do is have every reason of why either A, he's not getting that position or he's not applying for that position, or
Yeah.
why A&M is just so this and that, and they're not going to hire somebody like me because you know what, they do this and they do that. But it's really because I'm not going to apply for that because I
Yeah.
don't think I can do it. you know
Yeah.
if I reached out to you guys about recruiting, for one of the my former players. If I say, hey, Snell, man, you got connects, oh well, no, I can't help him because he this or Snell just start making up stuff like I heard he got 11 toes, and most of the colleges, they don't really want to have that liability, and it's like, what I'm saying, but it's really boils
Yeah.
down to, okay, Snell don't really
Yeah.
feel like he can really help this kid get recruited. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah.
And you really just don't want to say that. So,
Yeah.
you look at these kids now who aren't getting the recruitment they think they should, or they think that their friends are getting, or the people they hear about are getting. And it's never, dang, I didn't work hard enough. Dang, I need to work a little bit harder. Dang, I need to post a little bit more. I need to clean my Twitter
Yeah.
up. I need to do this. Hey, coach, what can I do different? What can I do more of? Instead, it's, oh man, it's because he's 6'5". I ain't but 5'10". I ain't gonna get, and whatever. He don't work like that, and da da da. It's always
Yeah.
something. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is you have to get to a place where you're tired of yourself. You have to get to a
Mm-hmm.
place where you can look in the mirror and say, you know what? Let me make some changes. And at the end of this, if I don't get recruited, it won't be because I didn't work my ass off. That
That's right.
won't be why I didn't get recruited. I won't know the real reason why I didn't, because I did everything I could. I worked hard. My parents got me where I need to be. I had coaches sending film. I replied to everything. I went to the camps. I did this. I did that. It just didn't work for me, but it won't be because of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I would say. You can give me your percentages, but I would say probably 60 to 70% of kids that I've come across lack both of those two tiers, the responsibility aspect and the respect aspect. And that is why the recruitment aspect is pretty much null and void. What would you say, as far as in your, perspective areas, the percentages of kids who aren't getting recruited, but it's because of themselves?
Ooh. Uh, because of themselves. Oh man, I see it every day. Oof. Probably I would say about 60 to 70%.
Yeah.
Are self-inflicted. Reasons why you know kids are not getting recruited, and it's simple stuff. Most of it is school stuff. Um, the next piece is probably because of off the court stuff. Home life. Just getting in trouble. In the streets or whatever the case may be. Getting in trouble with parents and parents not allowing them to play. And if
Yeah.
you don't play, you know, you can't be seen. Other than probably just making clips on your own. But as far as that go, um, yeah, man. I think about 60 to 70%.
What about you, Tim?
I'm gonna go a little different path. I'm gonna break it up into three pieces. All of them 35, 35, 35, which is gonna be over 100%. But the first one is accountability. Kids not accountable.
Yeah.
The main thing, which really should be more, is listen. Kids don't listen, and they don't ask questions.
Yeah.
So if you don't listen, you already not gonna ask a question. But you can really go far in life just by listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people when when people giving you the answer to the math test and you know you don't know it and you still circle B when they told you it's C,
Yeah.
that's listening, man.
Yeah.
We can't help that or control that. That's you. And then my third one I have, you simply just don't have to work it.
Yeah.
Uh, no work ethic is not going to get you recruited,
Yeah.
and it'll show because if you're talking to a coach and you establish a relationship, but they're always texting you first all the time,
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
not really probably gonna go anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're short texting, you know,
Yes.
Not showing
yeah,
any
no,
interest.
maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know, that's not gonna go well either.
Yeah.
Um, you gotta put you have to put the work in the recruitment process because it goes both ways. The consequence is more on you than the coach because there's a transfer portal, there's a transfer portal,
Hmm.
and if they have JUCO players, they have the full 2 years, and then they can transfer and get 4 extra if they go Division One.
Yeah.
So that consequence is more on you than the coach because it's always going to be another player that's taller than you, better than you, faster. So if you're 5'9", you better be elite. You better have a 45-inch vert. You better be able to shoot the ball like Steph Curry from 40.
Yeah.
You better be able to defend like Davion Mitchell. You have to have all those things because there's somebody that's 6'7" that could do all those things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just haven't found them yet. They just found you first.
Yeah.
So I break them into all three, but those are my three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In that listening aspect, I'll even challenge them a little bit more and say a lot of them I think listen, but a lot of them don't comprehend. You know,
Yeah.
you tell them, like you said, you tell them that the answer is B, they circle C. It's because they hear B, but it's not translating for them to then process to put that on the paper. They hear it,
Hmm.
but then by the time they get ready to go into action, it's like, oh wait, did he mean B
Yeah.
because it's supposed to be B that I circle, or did he mean B like, hmm? It's not a comprehension to these kids.
Yeah.
And that comes from, I think a lot of stuff is handed to them, a lot of stuff is given to them, and then and that goes from like their parents. And I've seen this firsthand, like the parents are mad because their kid is mad about something. Kids could
Yeah.
Hmm.
be in the wrong, but because their kid is upset, now they're upset and they're taking it out on the coach as well. And so now
Yeah.
you have coaches that have kind of bagged away. I'm not going to deal with this kid. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna do too much with this kid because at the end of the day, I can't hold this kid accountable. I can't say anything to this kid without their parents coming at me and blaming me for the
Mm-hmm.
consequences I'm trying to, instruct in here. So
Yeah.
I think that comprehension is a big piece. And I think lastly, these kids don't actually know who they are or what their role is in a program.
Yeah.
If you ask them what position they play, oh, you sideways.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You ask them what position they play, everybody says guard.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a guard. I'm a point guard. I'm a shooting guard. What kills me is the shooting guard part. I'm a shooting guard. Okay, all right, all right. What's your percentage from three? Oh, I don't know. Oh, but I'm a sniper. And then you get them out there and they hit 1 for 15. And it's like, well, okay, so you're not a shooting guard. All right. Um, how's your mid range? Can you get to the goal? Oh nah, I'm a 3-point shooter. That's what I do. I shoot three. You want to be. You want to be a 3-point shooter.
That's all right.
But what are you actually good at? You know what I'm saying? And I use this kid Zach Reedus. I just sent him, y'all his information. He played with DSA the first year, and then he went to Miles. Zach came out of high school, probably played 45 seconds that whole season, probably. Very underutilized, you know.
Yeah.
But Zach's mid range is deadly. I don't know if I've ever seen him miss a mid range. His defense is absolutely insane. Zach will pick up full court on ball by himself. I don't care who the person is dribbling. If LeBron walk in the building, Zach gonna jump on. You know what I'm saying? Like Zach's not scared to guard anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Zach's only 5'9". There are so many kids that I would take Zach over, regardless of what their size is, regardless of what their ability to shoot, no matter what role they played on their high school team, they're the star, whatever they were. Because at the end of the day, Zach is coachable,
Yep.
has great grades. And so I know that when Zach gets to my program, he wants to be here. He wants to put in the work. He wants his school to be paid for. He had bigger goals than just dribbling this ball. He's
That's right.
going to ask those questions because at the end of the day, if you don't really ask questions, you probably don't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not
Mm,
getting an understanding of what's being said to you. Zach's gonna
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna ask those questions. Those are the athletes that make a coach sleep at night. It's great to have the star, but my guy, who's my leader? Who's the guy that I can set the standard with? You know what I'm saying? Like you can't go below this because he shows it every day. If you can't get on the floor, I now have a accountability factor because I see him do it every single day. People follow the wrong people. You look on social media,
Yes.
you want to follow the wrong person. You're not going to be Steph Curry. You're not going to be LeBron. If you're 6'1", 174 pounds, LeBron's not the guy you need to be following.
oh,
If like it just has to be realistic, and I think that's where we start with the parents. The parents, I think, have to know their kid, and they have to have realistic conversations at home about how far
Mm-hmm.
the kid wants to go, and then what it takes then to get them to that level. Because to be fair to the parent, if my kid says I want to go D1, I want to play for Alabama. Okay, he's a freshman. That's not unrealistic right now. He still has all these years left. Okay, let me reach out to some people. Let me find out what does he need to do. And once we find that out, once Coach Snell or Coach People say you need to do X, Y, Z, the second my kid decides, you know what, I don't want to do that. That's when I come to him and say, you know what, let's take D1 off the board. How are we looking with D2, D3? How are we looking with JUCO? Oh, I'm just a sophomore. Why are we looking at JUCOs? Because you're not doing D1 work.
that's right.
And that's the conversation that has to be had at home so that when
Yep.
they do come to us, all we have to do is put them out there in front of people.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So to close, I want to start with Snell this time. What would be your message? We're going to leave this with the parents because ideally, if we're starting as a freshman, ideally it is the responsibility right now of the parent.
Right.
So what would be your
Right.
message to the parent? Their kid wants to go D1. Right now, we're looking at the highest of the high. We want to go D1.
Okay.
What do they need to do right now?
First and foremost, you have D1 grades. Secondly, do you have a D1 work ethic? Do your kid has a D1 work ethic? And thirdly, are you a D1 parent?
Yeah,
Are you investing in your kid? Are you treating your kid as a D1 athlete? Do they take the proper nutrition? Are they working out? Are they going to stretch zones, taking care of their bodies? What are you sacrificing to make sure this kid is prepared for the Division 1 level?
right,
Um, those things are the most important. And I would probably say to end it is, do you understand the life of a Division 1 athlete?
right.
You have to understand it. Like you said, it goes back to the comprehension piece. Yeah, you see what a Division 1 athlete look like on TV,
Right.
but you don't know the lifestyle of a Division 1 athlete.
Right.
Do you know the class schedule of a Division 1 athlete? Do you know how many film sessions a Division 1 athlete has to go through? Individual workouts, team practice, individual film, position practice,
Yeah.
position film, the meal plans, the workouts, all that stuff. You got to be able to comprehend
Yeah.
what that takes to be on that level. And my advice would be start now. Start the research process. Go spend a day at a Division 1 school. Go tour the campus. Go ask to shadow a Division 1 athlete. Go ask to shadow a Division 1 coach. It could be a position coach. a strength and conditioning coach, a director of a player operations, whatever it is, the player development and the director of operations.
Yeah.
Just ask to go shadow those people so you can comprehend what it takes to get there. Not just, oh, I know what it takes to get the D1. No, go see what it's like to get there and then come back to the drawing board and be like, all right, we need to change XYZ to get there. So that would be my advice to a parent, with a Division I aspiring athlete.
Absolutely. What about you, Coach Tim?
I'm actually, it's Coach Snell actually hit on everything I was actually about to say, but I will also uh, just throw this nugget in there. YouTube is free.
Yeah.
Social media is free.
Yeah.
YouTube questions. See what you like, get the answers. It's a lot of free information on YouTube, and it doesn't cost you anything. If your kid wants to go Division I and he wants to go to, North Carolina, well, go on YouTube and type in North Carolina. What's my man's name? Hubert Davis.
Yeah.
They'll have things, drills, like practice drills, how practices ran. They have videos of him talking about his expectations. And also call the university and ask, hey, how can we get in touch with an assistant coach or the head coach?
Right.
Can we do this, do this, do this? Through admissions, you'll already know, the schoolwork requirements.
Right.
Yeah. You got to get through compliance and all that. Yeah.
Right. But you mainly honestly just have to ask questions.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who to ask the questions to, you should know somebody who might know somebody else.
Yeah. Go to the team website. Go to the team website and go to the staff directory. Yeah.
Yep. Go to the staff directory. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and when it comes to D1s, the bigger D1s, it's gonna be a little harder, to get in touch with those head coaches. But there's always, like you said, there's position coaches. You can even email the administrator. You know what I'm saying? Like they know what the schedule is, and if you're just asking questions like, "Hey, what does a typical day look like?" They're not gonna ignore that. They're not gonna say, "Oh, we're not gonna give you that information. That's private information," because at the end of the day they're not reinventing the wheel, right? You know what I'm saying? Like these universities, they're all doing the same stuff.
The
It's
same
just you
stuff.
find a different trainer that does a couple of different things different ways. But typically, everybody's up at 4 a.m. Everybody's up at 5 a.m. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's going to class. Everybody's eating lunch at around the same time. Everybody's having team practice at 6. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? It's the same everywhere. Because at the end of the day, these universities are setting their schedules up, their playing schedules. So typically they're all kind of rotating on the same type of day to day. So it's not like you have to think about, well, how do I create this wheel? The wheel's already there. All you have to do is roll it.
Roll it. I was literally about to say that. Just roll the wheel.
We're spending too much time trying to create something that's already there. It's a blueprint. It's been the same way. And like it evolves, as we get more and more into technology, you see more stuff happening, but the basics of it is not changing. To get here, you got to do this. To be here, you got to do this. And to go beyond this, you got to do this. That's not changing. So yeah, but no, that was good. I liked all the pieces that you guys touched on.
Oh yeah.
I think that's good for the parents to see right now, especially going into the summer. For those
Yeah.
parents who have 8th graders that are becoming 9th graders at the end of the summer, this is the time to really start. And the way you start that,
I'm making hearts.
what was that?
I'm making hearts on my screen. Let me put my hands down, man. What I'm
he liked what I said. I like that.
you gotta, the kids do the peace sign and the hearts and stuff, man.
But no, this
Technology be doing all kind of craziness.
so parents, please go ahead and get started. Like I said, in the
That's right.
description, you'll see Coach Snell's information. Coach Tim, are you okay with me putting your information out there as well?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so you'll see Coach Tim's information out there as well. These guys know what they're talking about. Even if it's just getting advice on where to go from here, how to get that Twitter set up. And, parents who, like for myself, teenagers, you got to know your teenager. Are they ready for social media? Are they ready for all these things? If you don't think they are, you control it. You set it up. you run it. But they need to be out there on Twitter at least. Instagram is hit or miss. Twitter is
Yeah.
where it goes down as far as college goes. So
Yeah.
going into freshman year, get that Twitter set up. Going into freshman year, go ahead and start prepping yourself to get ready for ACTs, so you can
Mm-hmm.
see where you stand. Make sure you're getting as high of grades as you can that first semester of your freshman year. Go ahead and get in there, make straight A's. That way, you only go like you don't want to have to battle at the end. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So start yourself off good and go ahead and, like Coach Snell said, get with Stretch Zone, get with a nutritionist. Do these things now so that they do have a D1 body when they become a junior. You know, because they may get tall or they may not. But you can be 5'10" and be a D1 prospect. You know,
Yeah.
you can be 6'6" and not be. So
That's right.
you want to get them prepared, and then have those real conversations. Be honest with your kids. You know, if they're not cutting it, if they're not working, be honest with them. Don't give them false dreams. Don't give them false hope. Don't say, oh, well, the coach will handle it. The coach did this. Be honest with your kids,
Yep.
and start that now. You know, but like I said, their information will be down there in the description. Hit them up, pick their brains, ask questions, and develop a plan. That's where we're at right now. Freshman year, let's develop a plan so that the rest of high school is a cakewalk, so that they can have fun. You know, it's always more fun when you're actually being recruited. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how you have fun. That's how you enjoy junior prom. That's how you enjoy senior prom, because you've already got 5 colleges that you're waiting to see which one
That's
you
right.
decide. So
Yep.
I appreciate you guys. You know, it's always good
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
to talk
Most
with you
definitely.
guys. Like I said, we gotta do this again. You know, we gotta do it frequently.
Yeah, man.
You know,
We gotta figure out what's next up there in Atlanta, man. We gotta figure some
hey,
stuff out,
hey, it's
man.
wild
We gotta get it
now. I got
done.
that mojo back, man. Like,
Oh.
you know,
Uh-oh.
I went incognito for a little bit the last couple of months. I thought I was done,
Yeah.
but nah, I'm ready. So I'll definitely get with you guys and see what the next move is gonna be. But I like this. You know, I like everything that you guys said, and I think that this is gonna be
Yeah.
good advice. So make sure you share with all your parents, and let's get these
Mhm.
kids recruited. I appreciate y'all.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
appreciate you too,
Always.
D man.
Always.
Always.
Yes.
Yes, sir.